Hello, my name is Teresa Bartko, and this is a submission for my final project for the class Holistic Spirituality. And for my final project for this class, I am going to focus on a movement scale called the dimensional scale, or sometimes often referred to as the dimensional cross. And that's what I will be calling it, the dimensional cross. The dimensional cross is actually a very simple movement pattern, and it's truly in that simplicity that it becomes a movement meditation. And it's a movement meditation that encourages an experience of presence, integration, and connection. The dimensional cross is a movement scale developed by Rudolf Laban, who was a dancer, a choreographer, and a movement researcher and educator. He was born in 1879 in Austria-Hungary and died in 1958 in England. He is famous for the movement system that he developed during his lifetime, which is known as Laban movement analysis. My interest in this topic comes from the intersection of my background in the movement arts. I studied modern dance and ballet. That's actually what my undergraduate degree is in. And I also, as well, studied Laban movement analysis. And that intersects with my love for the spiritual realm of life. So, Laban movement analysis was developed from Laban's interest in geometry. He had an interest in the shapes of life and the harmony that these shapes could have. And then that translated into a relationship between human movement and spatial forms. He developed a variety of movement scales, so this is not the only one. It's a very fundamental one, but it is one of many. And they all cultivate awareness, balance, and a sense of connection between oneself and the world at large. He sought to understand movement as an expression of the whole being because he believed, as I do, that one's movement reveals one's thoughts, emotions, intentions, and inner life. Although Laban never publicly discussed his movement analysis as being inherently spiritual, his philosophy, one could argue, is fundamentally holistic. Rather than focusing on isolating parts of a body, the scales focus on movement that is unified. The dimensional cross can be understood as a holistic spiritual practice because it cultivates embodiment, integration, mindfulness, and awareness of one's relationship to the space around them. Holistic spirituality views human beings as integrated in their bodies, minds, emotions, relationships, and spirits. Rather than separating spiritual life from everyday experience, holistic spirituality seeks to cultivate wholeness through all aspects of living. The dimensional cross reflects the same perspective by integrating multiple dimensions of movement into a coherent whole. Each dimension offers a unique perspective on the human experience. The dimensional cross explores movement along three primary dimensions of human space. And these dimensions are the vertical axis, which moves up and down, the horizontal axis, which moves side to side, and the sagittal axis, which moves forward and backward. So, in discussing these three axes further, the vertical axis through a spiritual lens carries the probably the strongest spiritual symbolism. The upward movement evokes transcendence, inspiration, prayer, vision, and or connection to something greater than oneself. The downward movement evokes grounding, embodiment, humility, rootedness, and connection to the earth. The vertical axis engages the body through movement of the rising and the grounding, the mind through reflection on aspiration and humility, and the spirit through connection to both transcendence and embodiment. The spiritual lesson of the vertical axis, considered heaven and earth, is that the movement pattern is not seeing things as this way, or black or white, but learning to hold multiple possibilities or ideas at the same time, to allow for opposite and or complementary aspects of situations and or people, so that one can experience a complete and a whole life. Moving on to the horizontal axis, which deals with relationships, the horizontal axis through a spiritual lens expands awareness beyond oneself. Moving side to side creates a sense of reaching into the world of others and then coming back home to the self. Symbolically, this axis represents relationship, community, and a balance between self and others. This axis engages the body through looking inward and then radiating one's energy outward. The mind through awareness of the balance between the self and others, and the spirit through the expression of connection, compassion, and belonging within a larger community. The spiritual lesson of the horizontal axis in this movement pattern is coming to understand that spiritual awakening, or any type of an awakening, is not only an inward experience, but also involves learning how to participate harmoniously in the relationship with others. A spiritual life is a life lived amongst others and not only within one's self. The sagittal axis, through a spiritual lens, represents time and purpose. It evokes a relationship to time and one's purpose within that time given. Moving forward inspires intention, courage, growth, entering the unknown, while moving backward is about reflection, memory, and learning from experience. The sagittal axis reflects movement into the future while maintaining awareness of where one has been. Symbolically, this is a representation of the spiritual journey of growth and self-discovery. This axis, the sagittal axis, engages the body by viscerally feeling oneself moving forward and backward, the mind through reflection on past experiences and future possibilities, and the spirit through a deeper awareness of personal growth, awakening to one's purpose and life's unfolding journey. The spiritual lesson of the sagittal axis is to listen to the dialogue between moving forward and backward. And so listening to what has been and what is or possibly can emerge. The lesson is neither clinging to the past nor rushing into the future, but choosing to move consciously between the two of them. And all three of these movement patterns move starting from the center outward and then coming back. So they're always passing through the center of one's body or soul, if you will. The movement pattern of the dimensional cross always moves from and through the center. And this is the deepest aspect of the dimensional cross. Every extension away from the center is followed by a return back to the center. This pattern, through a spiritual lens, can be understood as representing one venturing outward into life, encountering challenges and complexities in life, and then returning back to oneself to nourish, replenish, and balance the self before choosing to move outward again. Rather than moving outward again in a scattered state, one can then move outward again from a place of stability and integration. Symbolically, this represents spiritual maturity, which is not about escaping, running, or hiding from the world, but finding a grounded center within it. The center engages the body through balance and stability, the mind through mindful awareness and self-reflection, and the spirit through an experience of inner wholeness and presence from which meaningful action can emerge. When practiced slowly and with intention, the dimensional cross becomes a moving meditation, especially when one can bring breath, intentional movement, mindfulness, and reflection. The scale becomes a very practical method for integrating spirituality into one's everyday life. And so what I would like to do now is to give you a demonstration of the dimensional cross. So I'm just going to move over to my movement area, and just to reiterate what the pattern is. It is the vertical movement, which is up and down. So you're reaching for heaven and you're grounding into the earth. And then it is the horizontal pattern, which starts with crossing over the body. So this is more internal. And then you open out to others and to the world. So far we have vertical, up and down, and horizontal, internal cross, and an opening. And then we reach behind us, backward. We're reaching to understand what has happened to us in the past. And with that integration, we reach forward into the future. So we take our lesson from the past. So again, it's up and down, it's cross, it's open, it's reach behind you, and it's reach forward. So I'm going to do that on each side 3 times. And the breathing can be an inhale and exhale, an inhale and exhale, and the same thing here. So it's up and it's down, and it's across, and it's an open, and it's a reach, and it's a reach. So now I'm going to, as I said, do that 3 times, and I'm going to do it right and left. And I'm going to restate what the principles are. So taking a breath in, we're reaching for heaven and we're grounding into the earth. And then we're reaching across us, and this is where balance and stability can come in. If you can see, I did wobble a little bit there, so I need to physically find my balance again, and then I reach it out, and then I take it back, and I reach it forward, and I switch to the other side, and I take it down. And once you get the rhythm, it's really easy to keep going, and your mind has to focus on what you're doing and where you're going. And once you get that, then you can say to yourself all the representations that we discussed. And that is aspiration, grounding into the earth, coming back internally, and then reaching out to others, learning from the past and reaching into the future. And then you just keep the rhythm going. And it's a beautiful exercise. I'm going to do it one more time because it feels so good. And take it across and reach and behind, and then my possibilities, and then I reach for everything I need and want, and I ground it into the earth, and I bring it home and give it to others, and I learn and I take it forward. And that is an example of the dimensional cross, which again is a beautiful exercise. It's so simple, but it brings a lot of joy. And if you can hear, my heart rate is up, my breath is up, and that's part of the healing process physically of the dimensional cross. So in my own practice of mindfully moving through the dimensional cross, I find that my focus always increases as as you can see, I have to think about where I'm going, what direction that I'm moving in. And then as I bring in the spiritual aspects of it, especially if I'm not talking to a camera, I can really focus my mind on the things that I've been contemplating. And as you can hear, my heart rate goes up, so it increases my circulation and my breath flow, which focuses my mind, so it's all interconnected. And then, of course, my spirit always feels lighter because I'm totally focused and engaged. And so any worry or rumination or overthinking that I am dealing with gets interrupted. It gets disrupted. So the dimensional cross for me, this movement pattern, becomes a way for me to experience the spiritual benefits directly through my body, rather than just thinking about them intellectually, because I tend to be in my head a lot. I tend to think a lot. So the quieting of the noise in my mind allows me to connect deeper internally, and to really figure out what's going on. And so I often find a sense of clarity and purpose that I wasn't feeling before I moved through the dimensional cross. So really, it is truly through intentional engagement of Laban's dimensional cross that really invites an integration of one's body, mind, and spirit. And it's through awareness of the movement that the body is engaged, through intentional reflection that the mind is engaged, and through connection to meaning and presence that the spirit is engaged. So in conclusion, overall, the dimensional cross truly offers a way for one to experience holistic spirituality through embodiment of movement. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that it piqued your interest a little. Again, it really is a very simple but beautiful and very life-giving practice. Thank you.